Hi, Jeff Vogel from High Fashion Sewing Machines in Grand Junction, Colorado. Today I'm going to do a YouTube on how to clean a top loading. Today it's going to be a baby lock machine. It's March 1st, so I thought spring cleaning is a good time to get your sewing machine cleaned. And nowadays it's kind of hard to get into your dealer because they're so backed up. So I'm going to show you how to clean, keep your machine sewing, and hopefully show you some nice tools that'll really help the job out. The first tool you should have is a small portable vacuum cleaner. This is a 2.5 gallon, 110 volt vacuum cleaner. The little 1 gallon ones you get that plug into your cigarette lighter in your car just don't have enough power. So I recommend a 110 volt, 2.5 or smaller. I found some on YouTube, on eBay. I found some on Amazon, on Walmart.com. This particular one's called a Stinger, and it's really has good power to it, and it cost less than $50 delivered, so it was a nice addition. Now, what you also need is a set of micro attachments. I sell these for $17.99 plus shipping here. These macro attachments are great because they fit onto this 1.25 inch tube, and they bring it down into something that is easy to use. So you put in this adapter that necks down the tube, and we're going to attach the tube, and it just attaches this way. Just slide it on there. And then of all the tubes, all the tools I have, this micro crevice tool is my favorite for getting dust and stuff out of the sewing machine. So that's what we're going to use today. You can choose whichever one you want. The other good thing about having a little portable vacuum cleaner in your sewing room is when you have all your little pieces of scrap fabrics on the floor, you just pull this off and suck them right up. So nice to have that and not have to pull out the big vacuum every time you've sewn. So to prepare ourselves, or prepare the sewing machine for cleaning, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the thread off. And the proper way to take the thread off is make sure the presser foot is in the upper position. You cut the thread at the top. Very important to do this. And then pull the thread from the needle out. That's the same direction as the thread flows when it's sewing. If you pull it out from the spool side, you think you're going to save 12, 18 inches of thread. The thread accumulates up here into the tension unit, and that's a $100 fix if that has to be taken apart and fixed. So it's a lot cheaper to pull the thread from the needle. The other thing is we're going to take the needle out. And if you haven't noticed, I have this little red gadget. It's a needle grabber. It pushes a little hook in like a bobber, like a fishing bobber, and we push that out, put it on the needle, and it holds there. And you literally can unscrew it and it'll fall down and it's still in the tool. So how slick is that? $6.99 plus some shipping. So depending upon what you order, a lot of times the shipping's included. So that's a really nice tool, needle grabber. On these top loading baby locks, there's two parts to the needle plate. There's a metal part and a plastic part. The plastic part comes off with a snap. You put one fingernail here and one fingernail near the right hand side, pull it towards you, and it snaps off. This point you can take the bobbin out, and a lot of times this little black bobbin basket or bobbin holder or bobbin case comes right out. And I always take a look at this to make sure that there's no needle marks or penetration. If you have any burrs on that, take one of those orange emery boards and you just literally can file them off like sandpaper. I check this bottom edge to make sure that that's nice and smooth because that's what's it's all writing on. Then I'll look down inside here, and this one is relatively clean. We just did a maintenance on it. But what happens is this edge will fill full of lint. And the lint is from your fabric and your thread. So there is some orangish red lint there. So I'm pulling that out. Brush is good. They make these micro swabs. These are 1.5 or 2 millimeter micro swabs. And they're even better than Q-tips because they don't leave any fibers and stuff. So actually you can get down a lot of places and it actually has a little bit of stickum to it. seems like static, and it'll pick up all that lint that's down in there. So you can clean out your machine with those guys. We also sell those guys, pack of 10 for $1. Now, if it's been a while since you've cleaned this out, it's important to remove this metal part of the needle plate also. I'm using a special tool that I made. It's a disc with a little piece of metal in there. It fits these fat, I'm just holding it down the middle. It fits these fat screw heads really well. So you just put it down there. You can even leave the foot on. So I'm holding it in the middle and just spinning that guy. And those screws come right on up. And the reason I'm taking this metal plate off is between the feed dogs, there's these grooves that need to be cleaned out. So these grooves here, this is where the swab works really good. So you just pull all those out. So I'm cleaning the top first. I'm even going to pull down my needle bar and clean any lint off there before I start the vacuum. Because you want to work from the top down, and that way when you vacuum, you only have to vacuum once. So I'm going to turn the vacuum on here. It's going to be a little noise. And we're going to use the tool, and we'll just, a lot of times you can be like a dentist and use two hands in here and brush out, brush toward the vacuum, get a little on the brush, suck it off the brush, so you get the idea. So the vacuum and the micro tools are valuable. The attachments work great. There's one with the brush that works great on the keys on your keyboard of your computer or your laptop. So this would actually go in between. My laptop has a lot of crumbs in it from lunch, I guess. Now, if you are so inclined, and you're not too afraid of getting into a machine further, there's a couple other areas you can work on. Over here on the left-hand side, there's a Phillips screw, and this little cap will come off. And you can see if there's lint and such in here. So right in there. The other good tool to have is a pen light. So this little pen light you can use to look into the areas and see if it's clean or not. So this guy is very, very clean. Now, you see these little caps here? I'm going to take those caps off, and there's two screws there. So this is not for the faint of heart. If you don't feel comfortable with the Phillips screwdriver, I would not recommend you doing this. So we're going to take these little caps off. When I go to the dentist, I always ask for the tools if they're going to just throw them out. A lot of times they're one-use tools. So I get the dental tools, and I keep those for my work on a sewing machine. The other one I'm going to take off is this cap right over the tension unit. All right, so now let's take this cover off. And before I take this cover off, this is when I'd turn the machine off, because I don't want to touch anything under there while it's turned on. There's two Phillips screws that hold it on. If you have a certain, do not do this on a Solaris. The Solaris machine has a camera built into this, so you don't want to be playing with that part. So this head comes right off. And then, as you see, we got a lot of items showing at us. So this is very, very clean. You see that brass area right there where I'm turning? That is an area where you can hit with some of your sewing machine oil. I sell this precision tip sewing machine oil for $12 a bottle, including shipping. So if you actually buy any of these other parts, the shipping on the oil covers your shipping on all the other parts. So I'll give that a drip of oil every time I open it up. And then I'll see where the needle bar is. So that needle bar that goes up and down, literally that's going up and down 1,000,000 times between cleanings. And I look down in here, there's a bar that's going in and out. So any place that is moving around or up and down, that's not on plastic. If it's metal on metal, I give it a drip of oil. So there's not a lot of parts that need oil on these guys. One thing to look down in here, if you happen to have a Janome machine, right in the middle of that shaft, there's a wick. So don't be pulling the wick out, because you'll be paying for somebody to put that back in. You want to add oil to that wick if it's a Janome till it's nice and saturated. Another tool that I sell is a Bernina tweezers. And if you have threads stuck into places that you can't reach, the tweezer is really good. So it's $4.99, and I highly recommend it. It's like no other tweezer. It's offset and very high quality. So those are the main areas to take care of to keep lint free and oiled. And you might be able to get by an extra month or two before you have to go find your dealer and get that's all fully maintained. I still recommend you maintain your sewing machine every 12 to 18 months, even if it's not used, because it does need maintenance by a professional. Now I'm going to show you the upper tension area. We took the little cap off. There's another Phillips screw there. These 3 screws I took off, actually 4, are all the same screw. So you don't have to worry too much about interchanging them unless there's a washer on them. So you lift up from the back and then pull out from the front. And this little cap exposes the tension unit. This tension unit looks like 2 frying pans or pie tins, and that's what traps the top thread and makes the tension. So I always open it up, make sure it's cleaned. There's a little tool that I call a thread hook tool that kind of can get in there and get behind and underneath there and pull out any threads and stuff. So that's something I also provide or can sell. And while I'm here, I will give this shaft that this all works on, this whole shaft here underneath that spring, I'll give that a drip of oil. Because that shaft gets stuck, your tension, especially when you're embroidering, can be funny. You'll have really tights and loops. And just make sure there's clean of lint. And to reinstall this, we're going to check the underside here first to make sure there's no thread gouges. If there's thread gouges in there, use your orange emery board and file them nice and smooth. This is a place the thread touches, so it has to be smooth. Now it needs to go back in flush and exactly the way it looks. That's not all the way in because it's too high. Now that guy just laid right into all of its spots. I'm going to go ahead and get the right screw in here and put that in there. And when I tighten screws on plastic, I tighten them snug but not like white knuckle tight, because if there's white knuckle tight you could break the plastic. And then you have to kind of rotate this little cap around till he pops in there. So there you have it. We'll just put this guy back on. Before you tighten any screws, make sure everything's flush. So you want to look around the back, because if you put it on crooked, it could be causing a tension issue, or you turn the machine on and it'll say malfunction. You know, turn the machine off. So if you have problems after putting it back together, redo what you did. But this isn't rocket science on this part. You don't want to take any other covers off. They are rocket science. So I'm going to go ahead and put, there is another screw there, but for time's sake, you have to put this part on before you put this guy on. So we're going to put this one on. The screw's still in there. See if I can get them started. There we go. It's going to bounce around a couple times before it gets in. I think it's a rule. So find everything lining up. Okay, that's on there. So what I will do first is I will put on the metal part of the plate. So you want to put the metal part on, get both screws in there, and please, please, please don't drop the screw down in there. It's hard to shake the screws out, and the screws are like water. They're going to fall and end up in the worst possible place and not come out. So be careful about those screws. And again, I sell these special screwdrivers, and I make special ones for Janome because they have a different type slot. Now, before I put this guy in, we're going to need to put the bobbin basket in. And the bobbin basket or holder has a white triangle or arrow, and there's a white dot way down in here. So if you see the white dot, you want to get that in there to where those two things match. And it's got to move about 1/8 of an inch almost. It's 2 or 3 millimeters. The thread has to escape out of there. So if that goes in and there's no movement, you're going to get a jam up on the first 2 or 3 stitches. So it has to move back and forth about 1/64 of an inch. Now put this in about 1/8 of an inch short. See that slot? And then push it and it snaps in. Now you put your bobbin in and you're ready to sew. So a few things that you need is a good vacuum cleaner with the good attachments. You need oil, you need a good brush. Micro swabs are great. And the needle grabber is just, this works on sergers, it works on sewing machines, anything that you need to grab small with. And a magnet sometimes is handy. And of course the micro vacuum cleaner attachments. So please feel free to call 970-256-1293 if you can't find any of these locally. We'll be glad to fill your order. And usually times we ship the same day. So this is Jeff at High Fashion Sewing. I answer every single email at J as in Jeff, P as in Peter, V as in Victor, LEFTY at AOL.com. So that's JPVLefty at AOL.com. Thanks very much.